Hey everyone, this is Lomi, and today I'm making a sherwani for Arios. I'm starting with the sleeves, folding the bottom edge up by 1/4 inch once, and then again to create a rolled hem. I experimented with linings a lot on this pattern, and ultimately decided it didn't work well to have a lining in the sleeves because it added too much bulk. Like with all the patterns I design, this one is available free in my website's pattern archive, which you can find linked in the video description. I did a little machine embroidery on the front of this outfit, but since this was literally the first time I'd done it, I didn't think I was very well equipped to include that as part of the video, so instead you'll see the end result. The front pieces and the back go together with right sides together, and I sew the shoulder seams, backstitching at the beginning and end to prevent them from coming undone. The body of the garment will have a lining, so if you choose to use a lining, it should go together the same way, sewing the shoulders together and setting it aside for later. I'm salvaging some fabric from a test garment for the lining on mine, so I don't have that part to show this time. It's pretty simple though, hard to get wrong. It goes together the exact same way as the exterior. Next up is the collar. I sew up the side, across the top, and down the other side, leaving the bottom edge open. I turn the collar right side out, and then add some decorative stitching in the same color as the embroidery on the chest. I liked how it turned out so much that I decided to add it to the cuffs too. The sewing machine tried to eat the fabric at first, but then it worked out okay. After the sleeve cuffs are embroidered, I fold the sleeve closed so it's wrong side out, pin the edges, and then sew the sleeve closed. Oops, bird nest. I'm still getting used to this machine. It's got a definite learning curve. After the sleeves are sewn shut, I finish the edge with a zigzag stitch, since these won't have a lining. The next step is adding the collar to the neckline. I fold the collar in half to find the middle, then pin it to the center of the back with right sides together. After it's nicely centered, I pin the rest of the collar around the neckline. This gets sewn on with a regular straight stitch, but this is just to hold the collar in place for now, because then the lining goes on top of the body with right sides together, and I sew around the neck again to connect the lining to the inside. Then I sew down the front edge, across the bottom, and part way up the side. I'll have a side slit left open, so I only go about halfway up. I sew around the bottom edge of the back too. Normally when it comes to closing the sides, I do the outer shell first, but since I salvaged the lining from a test piece, the sides were already closed. So I just turned it around and closed the sides of the outer shell to match, pinning the side of the body shut and sewing down to the top of the slit that's already closed. I repeat that for the other side. Now the whole thing can be turned right side out through one of the sleeve holes, which are still open. Inserting the sleeves on this is a little different. I start with the sleeve right side out and find the center top of the sleeve. This point gets lined up with the shoulder seam on the body, with the sleeve inserted up into the garment from the right side. That puts the raw edge to the inside where the sleeve opening is and the lining is open. Because of how small it is, I couldn't find a good way to make it visible on camera, and it needs lots of pins to hold the edges together. Since there's no lining in the sleeves, the sleeve, the body, and the lining all get sewn together in this seam. Going around the armhole by machine is really difficult, and I did it just because I'm using a new machine and learning to work with it, but using a pair of craft tweezers really helps me manipulate this tiny space around the presser foot of my machine. This is a place where it's probably best and easiest to sew by hand though, so if the idea of going around a teeny tiny sleeve by machine is too much, feel free to use a hand needle. For the second armhole, I do things a little differently and flip it so the presser foot is inside the sleeve instead of on the lining. I thought since it would just be sewing in a ring, this might be easier because I could just roll the shoulder around the presser foot as I went. but it was actually more difficult because all the necessary pins hang up on everything. That could be avoided by basting the sleeve in place, but then you're back to hand sewing. So next time I make one of these, I think I'll skip the machine for this part. It's possible, definitely doable, but it's rough. After both the sleeves are in, I finish the edge with a zigzag stitch, and at least that part is easy because there are no pins in the way. With the sleeves in, I press everything so it lays nicely, but I really liked that swirly decorative stitch on the collar and sleeves and decided to add it to the front too. Normally a coat like this would have hooks or buttons on the front where it overlaps a bit, which would make the embroidery I did less visible on one side, which you would want to account for when decorating. But for this character's design, I want him to wear it open, so I opted to make the design symmetrical. I can add buttons or hooks later if I change my mind. There are open style sherwanis that don't close at all in the front, which wouldn't have the overlap at all, but I wanted to leave adaptability in this design. And that's all. His outfit's getting close to done, he just needs a few more accessories, and for his boots to be remade. And that's all for today though. Thanks for watching. Bye.